You're very welcome along to the final Matchbook Football Podcast of the 2024-2025 season. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, one final time alongside Adrian Clarke and Mark O'Haire. And Adrian, it's been a season of up and downs, both on the podcast, off the podcast, on the pitch, off the pitch. A lot has happened, and we finally have a bit of a summer break for most people to reset that we haven't had probably since COVID.
Yeah, look, we've had a good time, haven't we? I mean, it's been a good fun season. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, look, we've had some great weeks, lots of long shots feel like they've come in and whatnot. But it's ups and downs with all these selections. But yeah, I think each week we've given our best and tried to be as well researched as we could be. But football, as we've seen, with some real shocks. It's kind of been the year of the underdog, hasn't it? In terms of some of the cup competitions this season, you just never know in football, and that's why we love it so much. But yeah, I've loved being on the show this season. It's been great.
Yeah, we loved having you both, Mark, and we've seen our viewership grow 30-40% at times on YouTube versus last year. This podcast has come a long way from what Sully and yourself started. Adrian hopped along, and then I decided to swoop in here too. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you guys the last couple of years, and it's not just the bets for me, it's the inside every week. I enjoy chatting football with you guys every week, and a few exciting plans with a big summer break to maybe increase that viewership again next season.
Oh, great. Well, I've enjoyed being part of the journey. It's not always easy we sort of pick out the 4 marquee matches each week to try and analyse. It's not always easy to try and pick winners in those kind of fixtures, but we do our best and at least try to show our working and show you how we get to where we sort of view the best value to be at. And it's not always easy, but hopefully we can steer people in the right direction and give them a flavour for what we're feeling, what we're thinking. But yeah, it's been a great season. Really quite looking forward to the break now as well, have to be said. Just when you talking there about sort of since COVID, I didn't realise it's been pretty much relentless since then. But yeah, at times it has been tough. But just this last kind of 6-8 weeks really, with the cup finals coming around, the playoffs, etc. It's a brilliant time of the year, and always capped off with the Champions League final, which is always one of my favourite fixtures of the season. So yeah, Adrian talked about the year of the underdog. So maybe we just stop the podcast here and say back Inter and Betis, and we'll move on.
Double it up.
That's the show this week. Yeah.
It has been the year of the underdog, and on the pitch, I think football's needed some of those storylines. And honestly, the last couple of weeks, even as an Arsenal fan watching that Spurs parade, obviously would rather it didn't happen, but at the same time, seeing a lot of people very happy, it's hard not to have a little bit of emotion towards that. So fair play to all the clubs, Crystal Palace, etc. The year of the underdog throughout Europe, and like Mark said, maybe we'll have 2 more. But before we get started, if you're listening regular to the podcast from the start, maybe 5-6 years ago, over the last few months, where a lot of people have, and maybe leave a comment in terms of what you enjoy about the show, but also any feedback for us, because we're really going to put a good effort into making this an even better show for you guys, both on YouTube. We do a lot of live shows. We do each show live. Is that good? Is that bad? Podcast wise, do you want to see more clips? That sort of thing. So let us know in the YouTube comments, or reach out to us on the @TeamMatchbook Twitter or X account. And before we get going, last chance to avail from a football point of view of our Pod 50 offer. That's Pod 50. If you haven't joined the Matchbook team so far and you want to check out the Matchbook betting exchange for a busy summer of sport, likes of golf, tennis, plenty on there as well. Pod 50, POD 50, £50 worth in free bets when you bet £50. Let's get going. We're going to cover 2 games. Predominantly it's going to be the Champions League final, but if you're listening before Wednesday night, we will look at the Conference League final as well. So PSG versus Inter, and we'll take a look at the betting that we currently have on matchbook.com. The 90-minute markets has PSG a short price at 226, Inter 365. The draw is available at 3.4. Both teams to score currently 174. The Asian handicap line will see Inter get a quarter goal head start on the Asian handicap. That's a market both the guys have tackled throughout the season. And 2.5 is effectively a pick'em. If you had to shade one, maybe the unders at 2.5 at 198. So yeah, Mark, I'll let you kick us off and set this game with PSG versus Inter. Is this the Champions League final you wanted?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great matchup. It's not PSG versus Barcelona, which I think most neutrals like myself probably wanted, but it's also not Arsenal versus Inter. Sorry, lads, but like no one wanted that final. So yeah, I think from a punting perspective or a viewing perspective, I think PSG versus Barca would have been much easier to sort of analyse, because we'd all just say goals and let's move forward and move on, really. But I do think 2 contrasting styles can make for a really fascinating matchup here. And I think it does make it slightly trickier to unpack and analyse, even though we kind of have a vague idea about how a mismatch might map out. Obviously, we've seen sort of complete contrasts in approach with Inter versus Barca over the two legs, arguably the sort of best two-legged Champions League tie in history, really. But are we going to see a repeat here? And I would probably even possibly say no, which might kind of go against the grain to some people. But seeing as this is a final, PSG are looking to try and complete something really quite historic here for them. They are the youngest side in the competition. Inter obviously trying to do it against the odds. Inter also the oldest team in the competition. There's some real sort of fascinating subplots here between the two teams. But for me, finals rarely do escalate into shootouts, and that's kind of understandable, really, state the obvious. But the last 6 Champions League finals have now been settled by either 1-0 or a 2-0 correct score in 90 minutes, and only 5 of the last 18 finals have gone over 2.5 goals. Just 2 of the previous 55 have featured 5 goals or more. I know that's quite a big leap, but it kind of gives you a flavour of what we've seen recently. And I kind of go back 12 months. Real Madrid were very strong favourites against Dortmund. Pretty sluggish for the most part, kind of struggled to open them up. It took 2 second-half goals to see that game through. And I think we could be in for another relatively low-scoring match here, considering what's at stake. And I would be surprised if we saw a repeat of Inter versus Barca, because PSG aren't Barca. They're much more controlled. They're much more methodical about their process. And I think Inter were the smarter side in that particular two-legged tie than Barca. They knew what to do and how to beat Barca. I think we all could probably see it, and they executed it superbly. But saying that, we know what they're going to do. They're going to be in the 3-5-2. They will sit deep. They will stay in the game, frustrate, foul, spoil, and play on the counter-attack, and you try and utilise set pieces, which will be 2 of their sort of chief weapons throughout the season. We know PSG have a weakness defending dead ball situations. It's a real asset of Inter's. We saw they scored twice from set pieces in the second leg versus Bayern. Did loads of damage against Barcelona doing similar. Caused plenty of problems on the counter. They were really brave and ambitious in that game plan. I'm just not sure they're going to have the same opportunity to exploit a much smarter PSG side. They're not as reckless as Barca. They're much more cavalier about their approach. They're more assured. And I've said before on the show, I think they've got the best 2 fullbacks in the competition. I definitely think they've got the best midfield as well. Not to mention that sort of threats from wide areas and forward in the forward line. So they've really grown and matured, I think, throughout the season. And kind of unlike Inter, they come into this clash in a really great physical condition too. They obviously ran away with the Ligue 1 title race, and even last weekend's Coupe de France final against Reims, which they won fairly easily. Well, Reims had to be involved in a huge relegation promotion playoff match just 3 days earlier, and we're basically putting more emphasis and prioritising that match over the cup final because it's their Ligue 1 status at threat, really. So that was quite kind for PSG, whereas Inter have been close to breaking point at times. They exited the Coppa Italia against their city rivals at the semi-final stage not long ago, lost the league title, which went to the wire, were embroiled in 4 really taxing and fatiguing Champions League knockout ties against Bayern and Barca, both of which they come under the cosh massively and managed to kind of get through despite suffering a load of stress. Loads of their players have looked pretty jaded, walking wounded at times too. So I am going to favour PSG here because I do think they're actually a surprisingly nice price, and that price has kind of been contracting a little bit in the last 24 hours or so. But I compare and contrast. Barca was sub 1.8 at home to Inter in the semi-final first leg. Bayern touched evens at home to Inter. Both Bayern and Barcelona were favourites away at Inter as well. So I think PSG around the sort of 225, 230-ish is where I kind of think is actually quite nice. I was expecting them to be closer to evens than this, in all honesty. Basically, that's the price that they were when they hosted Liverpool, and taking them. They sort of took Liverpool apart at the Parc des Princes, lost that match 1-0, but I think we've all been so impressed with the heights that they've reached quite consistently in 2025. And they were very, very good and capable against Arsenal for the most part. Very, very good for the most part against Aston Villa as well. And I think they should be good enough to get a result here. So just being a final, I'm going to tread slightly cautiously and back them in the double chance market alongside under 3.5 goals. So you've got the 0-0, the 1-1, the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 or 2-1 all on your side. Kind of keeps that sort of low goal total on side as well. And it's just a bigger price than backing PSG off a zero ball handicap where, even if it's a draw, you have to get your stake back rather than the double chance we're obviously profiting from. So, roundabout way, I'm pro PSG here. Even if that price is contracting, I still think there's value to be eked out. I'd be surprised if Inter can go another step, considering, at times for large parts of those ties against Bayern and Barca, they were under the cosh. And I think it's another thing to try and do it against a much more controlled outfit as PSG are.
Yeah, PSG double chance under 3.5 goals. The final selection from Mark 186. Also, wouldn't put you off that PSG at 228 in the 90-minute markets. Yeah, Adrian, can you make any sort of case for Inter? Obviously, they had that disappointment with Serie A, as Mark touched on there, but they are a tough team to break down, and there will be a lot of pressure on PSG, historic pressure on PSG.
Oh, you could definitely make a case for Inter, no doubt about that. I'm with Mark. I'm going to side with PSG, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the pod potentially, because that's not my pick here. But yeah, no, you could definitely make an argument for Inter. Experience is a big thing. Inzaghi has a good record in cup competitions. They got past Barcelona, in very unusual fashion. It showed that they can open up and score goals. And they've definitely got the physical attributes that might trouble PSG, who, let's be honest, against Arsenal, particularly in that second leg, were very reliant on Donnarumma. Also at Villa Park, where they stuck it to them, didn't they? Aston Villa in that second leg, there were wobbles there, and they were really reliant on the goalkeeper, who basically has been outstanding throughout their run to the final. So yeah, they can definitely win this game. But I'm with Mark. I think PSG are slightly the better side. My angle is more sitting on the fence for this selection. If you're not sure, and I think this is a hard game to call, if you're not sure, then I'm looking at both teams to score an under 4.5 goals. So I'm with Mark completely on the unders, just stretching it a little bit higher. Since Istanbul, 20 years ago, cannot believe it's 20 years. Unreal, really. Only one final's gone over 4.5 in that time frame. I know that the last 6 have seen both teams to score no land, but the previous 8 finals did see both teams scoring. So yeah, maybe we're due a trend change. But the reason I want to go with both teams to score is that they both score a lot of goals, and I actually feel that neither defense is completely at their very best at the moment. The last 5 Inter games in the knockout stage is all high scoring, all saw both teams score. PSG have netted in their last 17 in all comps. Stretch it back further, they've scored in 37 of their last 38. The only blank was that Liverpool game, where really, I think we all know they shouldn't have blanked. That was another inspired goalkeeper performance, wasn't it, this time from Alisson? So PSG will surely score, and I do think that Inter's are not as defensively secure as they were during the league phase, where they were really hard to prize open. Something's changed, and they're not. They're a little bit more attack minded, I guess. But Inter have been scoring goals. Have scored in 12 of their last 14 matches in all competitions. We saw how they hurt Barcelona. They've got 2 strikers, and I do think that with the fullbacks flying forward, certainly Hakimi, that 2 strikers will cause them problems, just spinning down the sides. They'll be quite direct, I guess, at times. Inter, they'll get it forward early to the front 2, and I think they can cause them problems. Arsenal caused PSG a lot of problems. In the second half of the first leg and throughout the second leg, Arsenal really should have scored more goals. So I like both teams to score here, and under 4.5 goals. It's a final. I don't see it being getting a little bit out of hand. I'll get to my reasons to fancy PSG a little bit later in the show, but both teams to score it is 1.67. Now, to get to 2.15, all you have to do is pair it with under 4.5 goals, which I think is highly likely. So it's a nice little jump, isn't it? So it makes both teams to score infinitely more backable. So yeah, both BTTS and under 4.5 at 2.15.
Okay, get that jump up to 2.15. We'll combine the two guys' picks for our 10-bound podcast money back bet builder. Bet this bet with the matchbook bet builder and get your money back as a free bet up to £10 if the bet loses within 48 hours. That's PSG double chance, both teams to score under 4.5 goals. A few correct scores on side there. PSG double chance, both teams to score and under 4.5 goals, comes in at around 7-4, 2.75. 5. Few Champions League bets coming up in the long shots. If you want to skip ahead and you're listening to this late in the week, we'll briefly cover Betis versus Chelsea Conference League final. Take a look at the betting that we currently have on matchbet.com. Betis are 4.8. Chelsea 193, the draw 3.7, betting to even under and 100% over around there. Both teams to score, yes, 185. The Asian handicap line sees Betis get a half goal head start, which is double chance at 2.06, and the total for this game stands at 2.5. Again, it's a pick 'em, 198 the pair. Adrian, we'll let you kick us off on this game. How successful a season would it be for Maresca if he manages to secure Champions League football and win a Conference League?
Yeah, definitely successful. Yeah, especially given that I don't really think they're that great. Certainly on the eye test, you know, I think there's a lot of scope for improvement, certainly with Chelsea. So, yeah, the fact they got Champions League football, fair play to them. You know, they finished the season strong, didn't they? 5 wins in their last 6. Job done. I thought they'd slip up at Forest. They didn't. They saw it out. You have to give them credit for getting it over the line when, you know, no Jackson obviously in those Premier League games, and coming into the final furlong they weren't in good form at all. So yeah, well done to Maresca and Chelsea. And yeah, if they win the Conference League, of course, you know, it's a trophy. I mean, they should win it because they haven't really played anyone, have they, that will test them until now. You know, Real Betis aren't a bad side, are they? So at least we've got a proper final. It shouldn't be completely one-sided, in my opinion. You know, they have to play well to win the game. How do I see it going? Well, obviously Jackson's back, but Lavia will have to sit it out. He wasn't registered, so that's a bit of a shame for them. It'll sort of add to Chelsea's potency, but maybe make them a little bit weaker defensively. I kind of like both teams to score again here. Really, Betis have scored. Well, both teams to score has landed in 11 straight matches for Real Betis. So they're scoring goals, but they're very much not keeping clean sheets. Just 6 clean sheets in the last 30, 2 clean sheets in the last 20 in all comps for Betis. So you've got to fancy Chelsea, I think, to register at least once here. Betis as well going forward, very good. Pellegrini is pretty attack-minded, isn't he? We know that. They've scored in their last 20 matches, Real Betis. And, you know, I mean, Chelsea have defended better of late, but still not a massive fan of them, of their personnel at the back. I think you can get at them. Obviously, in the semi-final, Betis sort of outscored Fiorentina. They were pretty bold. They went for it. Big weaknesses on sort of aerially and at set pieces for Betis, which Chelsea will definitely look to exploit. But, you know, they had plenty going forward, and you know, they went for it, and I think they'll go for it here. You know, whether it's early on or whether they're chasing the game, I think they'll go for it, and they can cause Chelsea some problems. My issue for Betis winning it is kind of La Liga teams in general. Can they defend? I mean, we've seen Real Madrid pretty poor without the ball. Barcelona, as brilliant as they are at the other end, shocking really at the back. And then you look at a team like Manchester United, you know, disastrous side really. You know, battered Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao. So on that sort of form line, you would give Chelsea a real chance here, wouldn't you, of scoring the goals, enough goals to win the game. So, yeah, so I'm going to go with both teams to score. I'm going to do what Mark did in the last game and go with Chelsea double chance because, you know, it's a final. It could definitely be a draw after 90 minutes. I wouldn't put it past Betis to extend it. So, yeah, Chelsea, you've got to side with Chelsea here. Strong favourites, in good form, up against a side with a pretty poor defence. Yeah, so Chelsea double chance, both teams to score. That's 2.15.
Okay, 2.15, the selection for Adrian. And Mark, for you, set this game up. You're staying away from the result?
Yeah, well, I think this could and should be a fun one, as Adrian's already outlined, really. It's an enormous occasion for Betis. I don't know if you saw the footage and the videos of the Betis fans waiting to greet their team back after securing this place in the final after beating Fiorentina in the semis. It's a huge deal for this club, Conference League or not. This is their first ever European final. Everyone Betis related is incredibly pumped for this. Not sure you could say the same about Chelsea and their supporters and their squad. So Does that have any bearing or weighting on the match? Probably not. It's very difficult to sort of quantifying it in sort of betting terms, but I think it's worth noting, and yeah, it might have a bearing. Similarly, too, there's an incredible stat, which I'm sure you're all aware of, surrounding Spanish teams in European competition. So since 2001-02, all 23 Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League finalists that have been Spanish have won. So every Spanish side featuring in the final since 2002 has won, which is quite outrageous, really. And yeah, you know, we're looking at a Betis team who are pushing close to 4-1 here. And, you know, I think the market does do them a little bit of a disservice. If you like market perception, they don't rate Betis. We can see that Athletic went off at 2.3 away at Betis in February. Well, earlier this month, Manchester United were 3.5 to win away at Athletic, and duly delivered quite comfortably. So they're 16th in the Premier League, Chelsea are 4th. So you can kind of sort of see where the market is thinking here. But yeah, make no bones about it. I think this is a dangerous game for Chelsea. They've used the competition to blood youngsters, give their fringe players a go. I'm really intrigued by their selection process here, but would I be trusting them at short enough prices to overcome a reasonable handicap hurdle in a final against a team like Betis? Probably not. Betis plus 3/4 of the goal on the Haitian handicap was of interest here. They've already held Barcelona twice this season in La Liga. Barcelona are much better than Chelsea. They've beaten both Atletico and Real. I'd say both could be considered as good as Chelsea, possibly slightly better. However, they've got loads of doubts about injuries. Johnny Cardoso, the holding midfielder, the Laporte, the centre half, Lo Celso, the goalkeeper, Sabali, the right back, a few others as well. And yeah, as Adrian says, the defence is quite off-putting too. They're very front foot, they're very attack-minded, but they're excellent in forward areas. Isco is enjoying an incredible Renaissance season back in the Spain squad. Anthony, of course, we've all heard and seen the headlines. He's been scoring some outrageous goals. But yeah, at the back, it's no clean sheets in 11. But a winning both teams to score bet in 17 of those last 20 games, Adrian sort of mentioned too. You look at their La Liga record, BTTS has copped in 15 of 18 against the top half as well, which shows they're more than capable of going toe-to-toe with the big boys, making their mark, but ultimately not having enough defensively to probably get the job done when it matters. So, yeah, my play here is to back goals. And look, we've been far from glowing with Chelsea in terms of their defensive work individually and collectively throughout the campaign. I expect them to be tested here by Betis going forward. But yeah, 3 clean sheets and 14, I think, away from Stamford Bridge for Chelsea at the minute coming into this match. So Betis can score here, absolutely. So I'm going to back both teams to score. And just to boost the price a little bit further, close to evens, under 5.5 goals as well, gets you 196. So that'll be my play.
Okay, a little boost from Mark. Likes to do that. Both teams to score. You can have it on the nose around 185, 186, or boost it to 196 with under 5.5 goals. Adrian, one more selection in this game. If you were looking at the Asian handicap line, and Mark mentioned it there, he definitely had Betis plus 3/4 of a goal making his shortlist. You think it's worth a bet at 183?
Yeah, that's reassuring to know that Mark had sort of looked at this. Yeah, I just wanted to flag it in case there are any sort of anti-Chelsea backers out there that want to get behind Real Betis. I'm probably one of those. I don't want Chelsea to win this game. I'd love to see Betis win. Yeah, if you want to get them on side, I think it's worth flagging up. Plus 3/4 of a goal, 1.83. As Mark said, do they want it more? Almost certainly, yes. Have Chelsea relax now that they've sort of achieved Champions League football? Quite possibly. Betis have lost by, obviously, with this bet, the Chelsea need to win by 2 for us to lose all our money. We get half our stake back, don't we? If they win by 1, so that's a little bit of a get out of jail if they do win narrowly. But you've got the draw on side here as well. Betis have lost by more than 1 goal just once in 26 games. That was quite a recent loss to Atletico 4-1. It's their only loss actually in their last 10 games. So there's been a lot of draws lately for Betis coming into the final. Not very many defeats at all. And 9 of Chelsea's last 12 wins, all by 1 goal only. So they're not the sort of side that have been spanking teams for fun, Chelsea, and I don't think they will here. I think this could easily be a draw come 90 minutes. So yeah, Betis plus 3/4 of a goal, 1.83 if you want to have a bit of fun cheering on the Spaniards.
Okay, Betis Chelsea, closer game than maybe we expected or I expected. according to the lads there. Let's move on to long shot time, popular segment this season. Mark, you are going to be pro PSG in that final. You mentioned at the top of the show about their match odds more than fair at around 224, 225. To get them at 4.9, you're going to be manipulated a bit with an undershout as well.
Yeah, just followed the Champions League trends of recent years. The last 6 years, they've been 1-0, 2-0 at 90 minutes, including Real Madrid last year, who were heavy favourites to beat Dortmund, made heavy weather of it for the most part. And I'm just not convinced this follows the same sort of basketball style of a Inter-Barca or Inter-Bayern game. Barca and Bayern are much more loose, shall we say, compared to what PSG are under Luis Enrique. And being a Champions League final, I do expect them to be slightly more cautious and there to be a cagey feel about it. Inter knew the weaknesses of those two teams and preyed on them superbly. They were very clinical and efficient in what they did going forward. Obviously, were brilliant from set pieces too, and that is an area of weakness for PSG. But I suspect they might stranglehold the game in terms of possession and territory, and not allow Inter to sort of run riot in the counter-attack as the way Barcelona did. So, yeah, I've just been very impressed with their body of work, really. I remember them going to, as I'm sure you guys will too, going to the Emirates earlier this season, putting in quite a limp display. I know Dembele was suspended internally for that game, and there was a lot of sort of question marks around them about their ability after sort of struggling and toiling through the first few stages of the Champions League. But since the turn of the year, really, there's been a real collective confidence about them, not quite arrogance, but just self-belief and a beautiful balance about the team, collective spirit, and obviously the star quality across the board. And yeah, they might be a little bit too young, but I think they're showing maturity in their performances. And look, Inter have got all those qualities too, and experience as well. Experience of playing a final just 2 years ago. I just think man for man, they're slightly inferior. They might be more battle hardened, but they're also wearier. And I just think if you look at those two games, home and away against both Barca and Bayern, there were key moments that went in their favour. Can they do it again? Of course they can on a one-off tie at a neutral venue. But I think PSG do deserve to be slightly shorter in the market, and therefore I'll kind of back them to win a low-scoring game at 1-0 or 2-0, close to 4-1 for my long shot.
Okay, that's locked in as Mark's long shot of the Champions League final. Adrian, take us to your long shot and best bet if you do them together, because they incorporate some of the selections. Pro PSG is going to be the way you're going forward for the final.
Yeah, sorry, Inter fans. Yeah, I'm with Mark here. I just think PSG are the better team. You know, you just look at what they've produced in the knockout stages. It's very, very impressive indeed. Yeah, I think in every department, maybe barring the defense, even the defense. I mean, probably I'd rather have the PSG, you know, in every department. I think they're the stronger side. Yeah, my bet builder here is PSG to win. Both teams to score. I've outlined why I like both teams to score here. And I'm going to chuck in PSG to win the most corners. We know that PSG are going to have more of the ball here than Inter Milan, probably 60-odd% of it, if not more. They're going to pile the pressure on, I think, and look to get at them down the sides. And of course, if you get at teams down the sides, whip balls across the face of goal, you're going to pick up a lot of corners. They did lose the corner count to Arsenal, home and away, but over the course of this competition, PSG have battered pretty much everybody in terms of the corners. They ranked second overall in the Champions League for the most corners. And Inter, who, as we know, kind of are more of a sit off and hit you hard and fast kind of team. They ranked 20th for corners in the competition, despite reaching the final and playing a lot more games than a lot of teams. PSG have had 59 more corners than Inter en route to Munich. So, yeah, I really like the corners angle. It's 5.5 for PSG to win, both teams to score, and PSG to win the corner count. My best bet is going to be PSG double chance and PSG most corners. It's even money. So you get the draw there and the PSV win. So that's a little bit of security. And it'd be an upset, wouldn't it, if Inter were to win inside 90 minutes. And the corner count, for the reasons that I've just outlined, you'd have to fancy, I think, PSG to win the corner count. I'll give you the numbers over the course of the season. 101 for PSG, 42 for Inter Milan. So it's a big old difference. Look at all the attacking stats, and PSG are way, way ahead of their opponents. I mean, the goal count isn't hugely different, 33-26, but you know, it's sort of almost 19 shots a game to 12 for PSG. They've actually had 126 more shots, PSG, than Inter Milan en route to the final, which to me feels like a lot, and 49 more shots on target, which again is plenty, isn't it? So, yeah, I looked at the record of the two managers in finals, both very good, but Enrique 83% hit rate, Enrique 73%. Both are used to winning. Inzaghi rather 72.7%. So yeah, both are used to winning showpieces, but Enrique very, very rarely loses these. So yeah, even money if you want to back PSG double chance and PSG to win the most corners.
Okay, all those bets recapped on insights.matchbook.com. And the final selection of the season, Mark, goes to you, and it's chasing that both teams to score when it's underrated from the market. Despite the era of goals, you still think that when Betis Chelsea, the market hasn't quite priced this one right.
Yeah, I hope so. That's a cracking best bet from Adrian, I should say. But yeah, both teams to score. As I say, massive occasion this for Betis. They're a big club, but a very big club who's never reached a European final. So they are going all out for this. And I really hope they don't freeze on the big stage. I don't think they will. They do have plenty of players of big match experience, of big match pedigree, many of them with silverware from across Europe and major competitions too. So that experience should help, and they should be right at it here. There are injuries in the camp, but going forward, I still expect them to have their key personnel fit and available. They'll play with freedom. They'll play with expression. And I expect them to cause a Chelsea team who we've criticised throughout the campaign, both individually and collectively. I think they'll cause some problems. So, yeah, I think the odds are pretty harsh considering, actually. You know, if I saw a standard Premier League game and Chelsea were at home and Betis were 4-1 away, I wouldn't gasp, but you know, it wouldn't be too far away from sort of going, well, I have to oppose Chelsea here. So I just think the safer selection is to back goals at both ends. So we all know about Chelsea in both boxes. Betis do tend to struggle for clean sheets, as we've already covered. But in terms of both teams to score, it tends to go very, very close for Betis in the big matches that matter. It's landed in 17 of the last 20 across all comps and 15 of their 18 La Liga games against the top half teams. We've seen them go toe-to-toe with teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. So no reason why they can't do it against Chelsea on the biggest stage. So both teams to score 186.
Okay, both teams to score 186. That is the Conference League final. And we're done. My thanks to Mark, Adrian. My thanks to producer Ryan in the background who helps put these shows together. And most importantly, thank you, listener and viewer, wherever you're watching or listening. As we always say, your view or listen is much appreciated. And if you do want to get involved in more matchbook stuff throughout the season, throughout the summer, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe and follow wherever you're watching and listening. Plenty of horse racing, golf stuff and plenty more besides in a busy summer of sport. And before you know, we'll be back end of July, start of August, and looking at those dates maybe a week earlier than you'd rather, but I think by then we'll be refreshed and ready to go. So Mark, Adrian, thanks on behalf of the listeners, as I said, for a cracking season. And yeah, other than that, enjoy the Champions League final this Saturday. Hope it lives up to its billing, and we'll chat to you next season, end of July, start of August. Bye bye.